Pedestaling, very prevalent in the spiritual community, very prevalent in my life. I think we're completely socialized from day dot into teacher pupil. And obviously when we start to awaken and we start to join spiritual communities and seek spiritually, that's all we know. And we make teachers of people. And many people are teachers. Like there is no doubting that hierarchies exist. There is no doubting that some people are more experienced in this journey than others. And there's no doubting that it can be very good to listen to those people and to shut up essentially and listen to those people. Like that is all true. But there's another side to it that I've experienced a lot in my life. I find it so difficult speaking to any subject matter now because there's many truths. So it is true that I have, it's been a blessing that when I have met a wise person, I have acknowledged their wisdom. I haven't tried to battle them from the ego like many do, and I've surrendered to their wisdom and I've learned from them. So that is all true. But what's also true is that we can pedestal people out of disempowerment, that we can, from our conditioning, from all that we know, from our lack of self-worth, we can make the other better than us. And maybe they are in some ways, of course they will be in some ways, because we all have our own unique gifts and things that we're here to embody and pass on, and blueprints, if you like. Soul blueprints, or you could call it just passions. You could call it many things. I'm finding it very hard to do this video. It's actually the first video that I've done a retake of, possibly ever. This is actually my third attempt at this video. I'm finding it difficult. And that's because, oh here we go, it's just going to be a tangent video again. That's because I have let go of black and white. Completely let go of black and white. I just see everything as a spectrum now. So there's so many different perspectives to speak into it from, but I'll try and just stick with, the point that I feel will be the most helpful to deliver and the one that has affected me most in my life. So I've been a real sucker for pedestaling. Oh, this person's better than this person knows more, this person. And what you're doing there is you're actually doing a disservice to both of those people, because what really serves people is deep connection and reflection. Should I just go into today's story, or should I give a bit more of an intro? I think I'll just go into a story. So recently, as many of you know, I met Jerome. A fantastic man. A very knowledgeable man. A man that knows so much about how this universe plays out and works. And that is a knowing that I have really enjoyed learning from and has been of great benefit to me. And I've totally pedestaled this man. I have made him better than me, to the point where I wasn't able to serve him. I wasn't able to give him anything other than stroking his ego. Today, what happened is a third party joined us, a man called Miro from Finland, a very intellectual man, a coder, very intelligent, and this man is seeking. So he dedicated himself to Kundalini yoga for 2 years, and I mean dedicated, like 2 hours a day practice. Like this man is absolutely seeking, and he starts asking us questions. And essentially the questions are, how do you let go? How do you... So his story, his Kundalini experience, his wording was something like, it led me to become so aware of my thoughts that the awareness became exhausting. And to me it was very apparent that this man hadn't surrendered, that this man had stayed in his head throughout this process. He was using terms like figure out, I think, thoughts, He was trying to work it out. He wanted to know the answer. And it was very clear to me that this man was still trying to control his existence from a mental, intellectual place. And he was even saying, you know, he was acknowledging that. He was even saying, I've always intellectualized everything. It's the only way I know how to go. And he said in his Kundalini experience, for the first time, he saw that that was how he dealt with things, but he hadn't got past that. And I started offering my experience, because I feel I've come from a very similar place and still struggle with this a lot, intellectualizing, being of the mind. And I started offering my experience. So I started talking about moving from trying to control the existence to surrendering, to allowing yourself to feel, you know, literally like allow the fear. You know, so he was still coming from a place of, like, he would talk about going into the void, and he'd talk about it not being nice, and essentially trying to exit the void. And I have found that actually the only way out is through. You can't go around it, you can't go over it. And he did actually use the term, how do you go around this? I was like, no, you need to go through it. So, you know, it doesn't really matter what the story is. But what happened is, every time I tried to meet this man from a place of truly wanting to meet him, using language that he could resonate with, and offering tangible, in my opinion, workable possibilities, Jeroen would come in and shut me down and start talking about, you know, 5D stuff. And I say that as if I'm critical of it. I'm not at all. Like I say, the story isn't important. I'm probably telling you too much about the circumstances. All that matters is this, from my perspective. It was lost on me, though. It wasn't tangible, and I really saw and felt how much Jeroen needed to be seen as the teacher, how much he needed to be validated as the wise one at the table, which he already is, in my opinion. For me, he doesn't need to do that. He just clearly is. And yeah, I was quite surprised by it. And it actually left me feeling, so obviously I own the possibility that this all could be bullshit. I mean, later, you know, it was kind of confirmed by Jeroen, as I'll go into, but, you know, this could very easily be my ego, me wanting to be the teacher. But actually, I was just wanting to meet and help this man. And I could tell that Jeroen wanted to be seen as something. So in my judgment, Jeroen wasn't offering anything practical or tangible for this particular man. That doesn't mean he doesn't have anything practical or tangible. But he's... it's a difficult one for me to talk about, because, you know, I love this man so much and I value this man so much, and I don't want it to sound like I'm doing him down in any way, because what he offers is amazing, but it just wasn't tangible for this particular individual. Anyway, Miro then left and thanked us both, and, you know, said it had helped him. And I can't remember how the conversation came up, but, you know, I felt a lot of fear in myself in delivering this reflection to Jeroen, but I basically said to him that I felt that he was seeking validation, that he wasn't really trying to help this man, and he was, you know, everything that I've already said, really. And I don't know if I really want to do this video. It's been a bit, you know, because it's hard. It's hard because I value June so much and see him as a teacher. I really do. But what I saw was his obsession with being that teacher, rather than just allowing himself to be the teacher. Like this. Right, so this is basically where it came down to, what June and I discovered because I had taken him off that pedestal for the first time, and I had given him a reflection and an offering, you know, a great act of service. It's much easier to just be like, oh yeah, you're amazing, teach me. Like I could feel the the nervousness and fear in me around offering this reflection. Because it's like standing up to a teacher, you know. And, you know, I have a lot of previous trauma around that. You know, I used to stand up to teachers all the time, and it would lead to suspensions in the head teacher's office and yada, yada, yada. So we're very conditioned not to do that. Anyway, you know, we got to a place of realizing that that was true. That there is a part of Jeroen that's hiding behind the mask of his knowledge. And this isn't about Jeroen. You know, we're all doing this. We all have unfelt, unhealed, vulnerable parts, which we will do anything to avoid being seen by others. And I feel like if I do have an offering, if I do have a medicine, it's that I don't really do that. Of course I do. Like, of course there's parts of me that still want to wear masks and cover themselves up, but it feels like if I do have a gift, it's that I don't really get embarrassed, that I don't really get shamed, because I see everyone is completely flawed, including myself. So what is there to be embarrassed over? It feels to me like the most serving, beneficial way to walk through this life for yourself and others is to share vulnerably, is to share openly, is to share your wounds and all. And let's try and bring it back down to the pedestaling. So this was a really big moment for me. It was, and it was a big moment for Jeroen as well, because Jeroen is so wise and so knowledgeable, and basically everyone he meets does look up to him. So that doesn't really serve Jeroen. So I think, obviously, like whenever a mask is pulled away from one, it's very exposing, and so obviously he felt that, but he was grateful for it. And what it really showed me, so I've been through a big period of going into the void recently, which is just detaching from old stories, old coping mechanisms, old ways of being to allow the new in. But when you're doing it, you know, it feels like death. And I've basically lost my confidence recently, which is all, again, part of it. And today I could feel that coming back. I could feel that with this Miro guy, that I really had something to offer him. And it's not that I no longer see Jeroen as a teacher. Like, he has, like I keep saying, he has so much knowledge and so much wisdom that I can learn from him. But to also in that see him as an equal. You know, he's not as vulnerable as me. He's not as honest as me. He's not as open as me. Like, we both have different qualities, is what I'm saying. And we can both teach each other, and we can both offer to each other. And that is beautiful. That is what it's all about. You know, it's wonderful to be seen as a teacher, but it's wonderful for the ego. Like, it doesn't really serve. Whereas to be in a relationship of reflection and mutual serving is much better for both of us. Whilst also acknowledging there are times where you do need to be the pupil. Like, this isn't me throwing that out completely. And then what I'm also noticing with his partner, Lydia, that's not her name, but it's what I've been calling her by mistake, so we'll just go with it because we're all laughing about it. Yeah, so I've been really scared of this woman, feeling very exposed around her, which I feel with all spiritual women, really. And yeah, I've been connecting with her and noticing, so there seem to be a lot of women coming into my life. Most of the people I'm talking to now are women, and I'm about to go and live with one in a forest that's 45 kilometers from any town, so it's going to be very much like me and her. Something is shifting there. There is a growing around the feminine. I don't really have much more to say on that. It's just pointing towards this shift that's occurring, this growth in confidence, but it's just growth really, that is occurring. But it's only because I surrendered. It's only because, and again, I'm not like, oh, look at me, aren't I growing and enlightened? No. I'm just sharing my journey, just sharing as I learn. That if I am willing to let go of it all, if I am willing to truly go into those dark places, the void, then on the other side of that is so much beauty and so much transformation. I mean, I've never kicked that pedestal out like that before. You know, anyone that I've pedestaled has remained on that pedestal. And I've never ever just kicked it out from underneath them like I did today. And it was so beautiful for both of us. And then there's this thing going on with the women. And if I look back to all the other people that I pedestaled, yeah, there's 3 that really spring to mind. And honestly, like, they're not, I don't want to talk about other people, but they're not as amazing as I thought they were. Let's put it that way. They are still very amazing people, don't get me wrong. But you know, where I had them, this unrealistic place, was all through my own wounding, my own lack of self-worth. If I look at, you know, so, you know, these are people, one goes back 10 years and then a couple of others like 5 years. If I look at where I am now and where they are now, I just feel there's a lot more transformation taking place on my journey. Now that could be the ego, that could be delusion, you know, I'm always aware of that, and I'm always seeing where that creeps in. Not always seeing, obviously, because that's how the shadow works. But you know, I'm very open to that, you know, I really love to see that, you know, that's why I do all the self-work, to see where the ego is tricking me, where, a better way of putting it is where I'm not being vulnerable, where I'm not being honest, where I'm not being open with myself and therefore others. Basically, everyone has shadows, everyone has masks, and to pedestal someone as like the best or better than has been a real problem for me, and I think it's something that I am no longer going to do. Except for Osho, obviously. I think that's it. What do you reckon? Am I mad? Or am I onto something?